There is a quiet misunderstanding many capable people carry with them through life, especially those who lead, build, decide, and carry responsibility. The misunderstanding is not about effort or intelligence or even courage. It is more subtle than that. It is the belief that the emotions that rise within you are the same as who you are. That if you feel anxious, you are anxious. If you feel angry, you are anger. If you feel overwhelmed, then overwhelm must be the truth of your situation. And over time, this belief slowly hands over control of your life to passing internal weather, to moods and reactions that were never meant to sit at the center of command. But there is another way to live, a steadier way, a way that does not deny emotion, suppress it, or pretend it isn't there, but also does not bow to it. A way that understands something fundamental. Emotions arise, but they do not rule. They visit, but they are not in charge. And the moment you begin to see that distinction clearly, something inside you shifts. Not dramatically, not loudly, but deeply. Most people spend their lives trying to control the external world so they can finally feel calm inside. They try to manage outcomes, opinions, markets, timelines, relationships, and recognition. They chase certainty, approval, and reassurance, believing that peace will follow once conditions improve. But seasoned leaders eventually discover what ancient wisdom has always known. Outer control is fragile, temporary, and exhausting. Inner discipline, on the other hand, is stable. It travels with you. It remains available even when everything else becomes uncertain. You don't need to eliminate emotion to be strong. You need to stop obeying it automatically. You need to learn how to notice what you feel without immediately becoming what you feel. This is not detachment from life. It is engagement with life at a higher level of maturity. Think of how often a momentary feeling has shaped an entire day. A careless comment sparks irritation, and suddenly your patience shortens with everyone else. A sense of worry enters your mind in the morning, and by afternoon it has colored every decision you make. A feeling of disappointment appears, and without realizing it, you lower your standards, your energy, your expectations of yourself. None of this happens because emotions are powerful in themselves. It happens because we give them authority without question. But you were not designed to be governed by every internal impulse. You were designed to observe, to evaluate, to choose. And that choice, quiet, internal, often unnoticed by others, is where dignity lives. For leaders, entrepreneurs, and professionals under pressure, this distinction becomes essential. You are asked to decide clearly while carrying uncertainty, to remain steady while others react, to model composure when tension rises. And if your inner world is ruled by emotional reflex, leadership becomes reactive instead of grounded. Vision shrinks. Judgment clouds. Energy scatters. Inner strength is not loud confidence or forced optimism. It is the ability to remain present with yourself when emotions surge without immediately handing them the wheel. It is the discipline of saying, I notice this feeling, but I will not let it define my next action. That single pause, brief, invisible, deliberate, is the birthplace of self-mastery. Anxiety, for example, often announces itself as urgency. It tells you something is wrong, something is behind, something must be fixed immediately. In leadership, this urgency can feel responsible. It can masquerade as diligence. But urgency born from anxiety tends to narrow thinking rather than sharpen it. It pulls you into the future, away from what is actually required in this moment. When you learn to observe anxiety rather than submit to it, you begin to ask better questions. What is actually within my control right now? What action is appropriate, not just emotionally satisfying? What would steadiness look like here? Anxiety loses power not when you argue with it, but when you stop letting it rush your judgment. Anger works differently. Anger often arrives with a sense of righteousness. It tells you something has been violated, something is unfair, something must be corrected. In business and leadership, anger can feel energizing at first. It can feel like strength. But anger, when unchecked, rarely improves outcomes. It sharpens words, hardens posture, and reduces your ability to listen. Observing anger does not mean ignoring injustice or avoiding accountability. It means refusing to let heat replace clarity. It means allowing yourself to feel the signal without letting it hijack your character. The strongest leaders are not those who never feel anger, but those who can hold it without acting from it. Disappointment, perhaps more quietly than any other emotion, erodes purpose. It whispers that effort was wasted, that expectations were naive, that hope should be lowered to avoid future pain. If left unexamined, disappointment leads to disengagement. You still show up, but with less heart. You still work, but without the same care. When you learn to observe disappointment rather than merge with it, you begin to see it as information rather than identity. Something didn't turn out as hoped. That is real. But it does not mean the work was meaningless, nor does it mean your purpose has expired. It means you are still in the process, and processes rarely move in straight lines. Fear, finally, is perhaps the most persuasive of all emotions. It speaks in absolute terms. It predicts failure with confidence. It convinces you that restraint is wisdom and avoidance is safety. Fear does not ask permission. It assumes authority. But fear loses its grip the moment you stop mistaking it for truth. You can feel fear and still act with integrity. You can feel fear and still move forward. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the refusal to let fear dictate your values. All of this points toward a deeper understanding of self-mastery. Self-mastery is not self-control in the sense of rigidity or repression. It is not emotional numbness. It is the ability to remain aligned with your values regardless of emotional fluctuation. It is choosing character over comfort, purpose over pressure, discipline over impulse. And this choice is rarely dramatic. Most days, it happens quietly. In how you speak to a colleague when stressed. In whether you respond immediately or wait. In how you interpret a setback. In whether you take responsibility or assign blame. These small moments accumulate. Over time, they shape who you become. Many people believe personal growth requires constant intensity. But true growth is often subtle. It looks like fewer reactions, longer pauses, more measured words, a calmer nervous system, a steadier sense of self. Growth looks like not needing to prove yourself in every conversation, like allowing silence to exist without filling it, like trusting your internal compass even when external validation is absent. Purpose plays a critical role here. When your sense of purpose is clear, emotions lose some of their leverage. Pressure still exists, but it no longer defines you. You begin to see pressure as part of the role, not a verdict on your worth. You understand that meaningful work often feels heavy, not because something is wrong, but because something important is being carried. Purpose does not remove difficulty. It gives difficulty context. It reminds you why steadiness matters. It anchors you when outcomes fluctuate. And for leaders especially, purpose allows you to remain consistent when results are delayed, recognition is sparse, or criticism is loud. This is where quiet strength emerges. Quiet strength does not announce itself. It does not demand attention. It shows up as reliability, as calm under scrutiny, as dignity when circumstances tempt you toward bitterness or defensiveness. Quiet strength is visible not in grand speeches, but in daily conduct. You begin to understand that leadership is not primarily about controlling others. It is about governing yourself. Your tone sets emotional temperature. Your reactions signal safety or instability. Your ability to remain composed gives others permission to do the same. Inner discipline is not glamorous, but it is transformative. It is waking up and doing what is required even when enthusiasm is absent. It is choosing thoughtful action over emotional discharge. It is resisting the urge to dramatize internal discomfort. It is understanding that not every feeling requires expression. This does not make you less human. It makes you more trustworthy, especially to yourself. As you practice this way of being, something subtle changes in how you experience emotions. They become less overwhelming, not because they disappear, but because they are no longer fused with identity. You stop saying, "I am anxious," and start saying, "Anxiety is present." That small linguistic shift reflects a profound internal shift. You are no longer the emotion. You are the one aware of it. Awareness creates space. Space creates choice. Choice creates character. And character, over time, outlasts outcomes. Outcomes rise and fall. Markets shift. Projects succeed and fail. Public opinion turns quickly. But character remains. It becomes your reputation with yourself. It becomes the foundation others sense even if they can't articulate it. This is why personal transformation is not about becoming someone else. It is about returning to what is essential within you and removing what does not belong there. It is about strengthening the part of you that can observe, choose, and remain steady. The work is internal and it is ongoing. There is no finish line, but there is progress. And progress looks like increased clarity, reduced reactivity, and deeper alignment with purpose. In the next part, we will go deeper into how this inner discipline is built over time, how it sustains perseverance through long seasons of pressure, and how leaders can cultivate resilience without hardening their hearts. For now, simply notice this: emotions will continue to arise. That is part of being alive. But they do not command you. They never did. And the more you remember that, the more quietly powerful your life becomes. And this is where most people misunderstand strength. They believe strength is emotional intensity. They believe the strongest person is the one who feels the most, reacts the fastest, expresses the loudest. But real strength is quieter than that. Real strength is the space between what you feel and what you choose. It is the pause that allows wisdom to speak before impulse takes control. You were never meant to be emotionless. Emotions are part of being alive. They are signals, not commands. They rise like weather patterns across the inner landscape, sometimes gentle, sometimes violent. But weather does not define the land. A storm passing through does not become the ground beneath it. And neither do your emotions become who you are. When pressure mounts, when expectations tighten, when the stakes feel heavy, the inner voice often grows urgent. It tells you to rush, to defend, to prove, to react before you are left behind. But urgency is rarely wisdom. The disciplined person learns to slow down precisely when the world demands speed. They learn that clarity comes not from movement, but from stillness. And in that stillness, you remember what matters. You remember the kind of person you intend to be, regardless of outcome. You remember that character is not built in moments of ease, but in moments when no one is watching, and everything inside you wants the easier path. Leadership begins here. Not in authority, not in position, not in recognition, but in self-governance. If you cannot lead your own inner life, you will always be at the mercy of external forces. Praise will inflate you. Criticism will crush you. Success will distract you. Failure will define you. But when you are anchored within, when your sense of worth is not negotiated daily by circumstances, you move through the world with a steadiness that cannot be shaken. You stop chasing validation and start living from conviction. This does not mean life becomes easy. It means life becomes honest. You still feel disappointment. You still feel fear. You still feel frustration when progress is slow and the path forward is unclear. But those feelings no longer dictate your behavior. They inform you, and then they pass. You learn to act from principle instead of impulse. You learn to respond instead of react. And over time, this discipline compounds. What once felt difficult becomes natural. What once required effort becomes instinct. There is a quiet confidence that forms when you realize you do not need to win every moment to live well. You do not need to control every outcome to move forward with dignity. You do not need certainty to act with purpose. Your responsibility is not to predict the future, but to meet the present with integrity, to do the work in front of you, to speak truth without aggression, to stand firm without hardness, to remain open without becoming fragile. For the leader, under pressure, this inner mastery becomes your greatest asset. Economies shift. Strategies fail. Plans unravel. People disappoint you. Some leave. Some misunderstand you. Some doubt you. If your inner life is untrained, these moments will pull you apart. But if you have practiced steadiness, if you have learned to govern your reactions, you remain intact. You adapt without panic. You correct without shame. You continue without bitterness. This is the long work. It does not produce instant results. It rarely earns applause. But it shapes a person capable of carrying responsibility without being consumed by it. A person who can endure uncertainty without losing direction. A person who understands that meaning is not found in controlling the world, but in meeting it with a well-ordered soul. And so, when emotions rise, as they always will, do not fight them. Do not surrender to them either. Observe them. Learn from them. Then return to what you know is right. Return to discipline. Return to purpose. Return to the quiet strength that does not need to announce itself to be real. Because in the end, you are not defined by what you feel in a moment, but by what you choose again and again over time. And those choices, made calmly, patiently, faithfully, shape a life that can withstand pressure without losing meaning.